Hi, I'm Rachel Soderstrom, and I'm going to tell you about some study I've been doing. My overall question is about social learning and can social modelling in the home, school, workplace, or media reduce family violence? But the particular research article I'm going to be talking to you about today is called Prosocial Video Game as an Intimate Partner Violence Prevention Tool Among Youth, a randomized control study. The background information that I've been looking at around this topic is around violence in families and the links between witnessing and experiencing violence as children and the impact that can have on behaviours and attitudes towards violence as an adult. The authors of this study had a look at the negative impact of violent video games and then some more recent studies that show the positive impact of prosocial video games, which can increase empathy, prosocial cognitions, and helpful behaviour. There's also benefits over gaming rather than other types of media because the individual is doing experiential learning and role playing and having to make decisions in character rather than just being an observer. The authors found some gaps in the research as well. They don't know if the changes that are created by prosocial video games are sustained over time. And also they found no studies that explored the two dimensions of empathy, only looking at it as a whole. Nobody looked at the affective responses and also the cognitive responses. So the aim of this study was to establish if playing a prosocial video game, called Jessie in this case, will increase affective and cognitive responses in young people towards victims of intimate partner violence immediately after playing the game and also a week later. So the hypothesis was that playing the prosocial video game would increase empathy towards victims of IPV, and whether they played the game or not was the independent variable. And they would be measuring both affective responsiveness and cognitive responsiveness, which was the dependent variable, using the victim responsiveness assessment. That testing took place over 3 times before playing the game, immediately after playing the game, and then a week later. The participants were 172 young people from Barbados, 83 females, 89 males, aged between 19 and 17 years. So the method, it was a mixed between-within subject design, a random controlled trial. We've got 2 groups, the experimental group who played the game Jessie and the control group who didn't play the game Jessie. We look at 2 genders, males and females, and the 3 times that the responses were measured. The different tools used was the prosocial video game Jessie, which was designed to increase affective and cognitive responsiveness towards victims of gender-based violence in a domestic context. Because the participants were from Barbados, it was important to have a socio-cultural sensitization to Caribbean context, making sure the characters had local dialects, voices, and characterizations. That game was played for 5 consecutive days, 1 level per day, 45 minutes a day. Now, the outcome measures were they used the None in 3 victim responsiveness assessment, which measures affective and cognitive responsiveness. The 16 questions asked were 2 subscales divided into the affective responsiveness and the cognitive responsiveness. And if each of those an individual could score between 8 and 40, the highest score showed more responsiveness. Now the results. So the hypothesis was only partly supported. Using a mixed between-within ANOVA to assess the change, they found that there was a significant increase in affective responsiveness by the experiment group. So the p-value of that was 0.001. The experiment group was more responsive. And they also found that females were more responsive than males, and that had a p-value of 0.004. The reason the hypothesis was only partly supported was because there was no significant change in cognitive responsiveness over time or between groups. So this particular graph here shows us the change in mean levels of affective responsiveness in the control and experiment conditions. The dotted line is the control group. We can see that over time 1, 2, and 3, that responsiveness was measured. It was pretty much stayed the same, but with the experiment group who played the game, we can see at time 2, the responsiveness does increase significantly, and even a week later at time 3, it's still significantly higher than it was previously. So these results do conclude that the prosocial video game like Jessie can increase empathy towards individuals experiencing IPV. It's also a valuable tool that could address other social issues within communities and societies as well. And Jessie has been recommended for school use in Barbados. The fact that the cognitive responsiveness was not shown to improve through playing Jessie could have been because to change cognitive responsiveness may require more exposure or longer processing times. Limitations of the study. So the authors did acknowledge that they didn't measure the participants' behaviour and they can't tell if changes in effective responsiveness actually translate to changes in behaviour. And this could be done by doing further studies with older adolescents who have experienced intimate partner relationships. I also found potentially another limitation and wonder if the accuracy of the none in 3 victim responsiveness assessment scores are accurate. And I looked at questions that came from the cognitive part of those questions, such as, I find it easy to recognize emotions that a woman hurt by her partner might feel. And I wondered if a 9-year-old can fully understand that question and answer it honestly. And if this is the case, then maybe the actual answers that we got through that responsive assessment scale may not be as accurate as we would like them to be sure that the results are accurate. So basically, I think the method was very well thought out. The tools used were good with questions around the scale that I've just mentioned. The results were clear to me. And the conclusion, I agree with the conclusion. I think they've done well with that. My bigger question about can social modelling in the homeschool, workplace or media reduce family violence? I need to do some more study on that one, but I think that this particular study has helped confirm that it definitely can. Thank you.